Hey, I'm Laura from BBC News, and we're here to talk about The Sims, the video game series, how it's been 25 years since it first started, which is really exciting. It's still got millions of users all around the world. Many people stream it as well as their career, including the guys that I'm going to be speaking to now. So let's hear from them.
I'm Jessie, also known as Plumbella. I make videos on The Sims, talking about The Sims history since 2017.
I'm Molly. I go by TheEnglishSimmer online, and I've been playing and streaming and uploading videos about The Sims for the past 11 years now.
Oh, wow. Hi, y'all. Name's Mira, also known as Xmiramira, and I have been streaming and making Sims content for 10 years. Where has the time gone?
Tell me about it.
So, important first question. How did you guys get into playing The Sims?
So I remember my brother brought it home. I think he got it from a friend's house, and then I was never really into like playing with dolls too much. Like I played with kind of Polly Pockets and stuff, but I was never like a big Barbie girl. And then I discovered that you could basically create like a dollhouse and play with dolls, but virtually. And so I got really, really into Sims from the age of about 6 years old. I always joke that I probably shouldn't have been playing it that young, but I started creating families and like people that I knew and just absolutely fell in love with the game.
I think for me, what happened? The first Sims used to interest me, but my mom wouldn't let me get it. And then eventually I was able to like let her get me the Sims Busting Out on console and Herbs on console. And that's where my love for Sims started. It started on console, and then eventually I was able to play Sims on PC. And it's been me ever since. I've been playing ever since.
I started when we had a family computer that everybody used, and my brother's friend brought round the disc and we installed it on my PC. And then obviously I didn't own the disc, so I couldn't play it unless he was round, but I was obsessed with it. But I was obsessed with when I found out that you could remove the pool ladder. And I was also obsessed with the noise that played when you made two Sims kiss and it would play all this romantic music. That's what drew me in.
I think everyone remembers the pool moment, don't they? That's a thing that kind of grew out of nowhere, didn't it? And then suddenly people realised they could be really mean, and everybody wanted to do that for a little bit to The Sims. Apart from these kind of memes that we have around The Sims, like taking out the pool ladder, setting things on fire, it holds a lot of personal weight for people as well. I wonder, what does the series mean for you guys personally?
As a career, for the past 11 years, it's been ridiculously important to kind of connect with people and share my stories. I focus a lot on like LGBTQ plus content, and I've got to share that through The Sims because they've always been kind of a spearhead in the gaming industry when it comes to telling diverse stories and wanting to show that representation. Also, just like incredible friends that we've met through the series. Like we've all been lucky enough to be invited to events over the past few years that we've been able to meet some of our best friends and really like-minded people who all love the same game that we do. And I think we're so privileged to be in that position.
I think it's just an important vessel of creativity. Like I love seeing the builds people create, the storylines people create. Just the things that Simmers come up with are wonderful. They could be unhinged, like really great, funny stuff. And it's just always been one of my favorite, if not my favorite games to express my creativity in ways that I cannot in other games and with other outlets.
I agree with the other two as well. I started playing when I was 5, so I don't actually have any memories of not playing The Sims. It's always just been with me in every single part of my life, like the teenage years, the uni years. But I also think it's special because even from The Sims 1, it was released with such a sense of community and the ability to take something and customize it and share it with other Simmers. And I think that's still prevalent today with custom content, but also as a creator, the way that I see myself and other creators see a challenge and think, how can I take this challenge and make this slightly different and put my own spin on it? I mean, Vixella's done about 100 versions of the Random Genetics challenge, and it's just really interesting to see the ways that people can come up with to use the game in an interesting way.
I think that's part of the reason then why we are still talking about this game 25 years on. Is it the community, or what are the other reasons why this game has just lasted for so long?
I remember a few years back, I participated in a competition like for gaming. And, the commentary around me was constantly like, oh my gosh, she's always playing Sims. It's Sims, it's Sims, it's Sims. And one person was like, do you notice that every time this girl plays Sims, she finds a different way? Like she's playing multiple different things within this one game. You know, she's taking other games and injecting them within the Sims. Like that was back when I used to do my Sims Among Us streams, where I had like Among Us style streams. Um, I would take different games and like inject them. So I definitely think that is the reason why, or one of the main reasons, the main factors, and why The Sims has such strong lasting power is the fact that we can take it and do so many different things with it, and creativity knows no bounds with this game. Like it's too much to do.
And what do you think, Molly?
Yeah, the community are constantly striving for creativity, and they take challenges and like create these epic storylines. And then if you do happen to end up getting a little bit bored of those Sims, or you want to move on to something else, it's so easy to start a new game, download an abundance of like creator made custom content and incredible mods that aren't actually like officially within the game, but that they have allowed to exist for so many years throughout the franchise, and encourage modders to kind of play around and put their own stamp on the game, which I think is really, really incredible that we have these amazing storytellers and just like so much talent within the community to drive this game to be as open-ended as you really want it to be, and wherever your imagination will take you.
Just from looking at you guys, it's obviously, and you're talking about this community, it's attracted such a diverse range of players, but obviously it wasn't always like that, and part of that is because of people like yours input. For example, you, Amira, I believe you introduced this melanin pack to kind of help expand the skin tone options for Sim characters.
Boy, that was the time. That was like nine. It was like 9 years ago at this point, 8, 9 years ago. So the story behind the Melanin Pack was simply because I started making content for YouTube, and I would do my Twitch streams and stuff like that. And I wanted to make dark skin Sims. And one common issue in a lot of video games is that the skin tone options don't get as dark as they should. They don't accurately reflect all of the players when it comes to like skin tones. It's very limited. Some games I used to play back in the day, it was like very light shades of brown. And I'm like, what if I wanted to make a self? I can't even make a self sim, I couldn't do that, or make sims that either look similar to me, or maybe family, friends, things like that, or just, dark skinned sims. And the issue with Sims 4 is that the darker skin tones were very gray. Like, I always would liken them to, you ever leave a chocolate bar around and it goes bad and it gets real white and ashy like? Yeah, like the skin tones used to look like that. And that wasn't just The Sims. Like that's the case in a lot of games. Um, but the difference between a lot of games and The Sims is I can do something about it. So, so I took to doing some research. I got in Photoshop because I've been doing self-taught graphic design since like 12, 13. So I know my way around Photoshop. Took those skills, figured out, found some programs, found out how to get the skin tones in the game, and spent weeks and months testing it. But I think my final breaking point was, even though even though the community says such is so expansive when it comes to custom content and mods, when it came to skin tones, it still was lacking when it came to darker skin tones. I went through 70 pages of custom content skin tones and still couldn't find darker skin tones that had a vibrant hue. It was like always gray, like a bluish purple. It was literally everything but like what I was looking for. After going through about 70 pages, I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out myself. So I did that and released the Melanin Pack, released like the betas, and it tested. let the community test it and stuff like that on Tumblr. I feel like it was a mixed response at first because you had the people that was like, why are you trying to change their game? The skin tones are fine. And then you had people that was like, no, we need this because the Sims are ashy. It even started a hashtag like say no to ashy Sims. And like it was a whole thing years ago. So it was a very mixed response, but mostly positive though.
And what was the reaction as well from the company themselves? Did they reach out to you, or what did they
Yes.
say about it?
Um, at first, they didn't, I don't even know if they knew about it until I did an interview with AJ Plus back in 2017. And that interview went like super viral. And I want to say within like the week or two, they reached out. And then that is where my relationship with Electronic Arts started. 'Cause it went really viral. Like I was like, oh my God, like I'm waking up and my phone is hot from all the notifications. I'm like, what's happening here? I was panicking.
I mean, diversity is a really hot topic at the moment, not just in gaming, but kind of in wider politics as well. But how do you feel gaming companies should handle implementing things like this? And how do you feel it has been implemented in The Sims?
I feel like if you, as long, okay, how do I put this? I feel like they should take the steps to make sure people are represented where it makes sense, right? Because I know there's a lot of discussion about diversity and inclusion in games, and the conversations always come down to whether it makes sense for certain groups of people to be involved in certain games based on the subject matter of the games. But I feel like with a game like Sims, that's supposed to be like a life simulator, everybody should be able to, for the most part, make themselves with little to no issue. Um, and I'm hoping that more gaming publishers take note of that going forward. I've seen some though, because I actually had a conversation similar the other day where I expressed that since the melanin pack and since, that blew up and the changes that have been made within the company or within the game, I've noticed changes in other games. Like I've noticed I play new games and the skin tones look good out the gate. The body types are on point. There's more diverse afro hair options. I can have cornrows, I can have box braids, afro puffs, and it's not third party content and it's not paid DLC all the time. So there's definitely been changes being made. I think that companies should continue to just pay attention, pay attention, do their research, do their due diligence, and if you need external sources, which means if you need to consult on people who don't work there or who are not in your sphere, do that and do it correctly and pay people for their time and their work and their contributions.
I want to talk a little bit about the Sims movie, if that's all right. But just a little bit about what do you guys expect from it? What are you hoping from it? Are there any must-haves in this film?
I'm just hoping that there's some lore in there and that, people who actually play the game can look at it and draw similarities and see the things that they recognize. I know they're gonna have to, do things to make it, I guess, palatable to the general public as well. But I'm hoping that like genuine Sim players can watch it and be like, oh wow, I remember that, or some good old classic lore. But
We're hoping there's an invite to the premiere.
that part,
the green carpet.
I'm hoping we
that
star in
part.
it.
Yibs.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to it. I think The Sims, what I've always liked about The Sims is like kind of the quirky humor that the franchise has, and alongside the lore and the stories and the iconic townies that we have. I think the quirkiness of the game, and like I think they can make so many gags about like plumb bobs or how Sims can pass away in the game and fires being out of control. And I think even having them as like Easter eggs or like little background scenarios that Simmers can kind of pick out and be like, oh, that happened to me when I was like 6 years old playing this game. I am firmly sat in my idea of wanting it to be a murder mystery. I think a murder mystery with like iconic townies could be so good.
If they finally answered the question of where Bella is, that could be.
Yep.
I have something really niche to say.
Go
In
for
the
it.
Sims 2 exchange, EA uploaded like a story, and it was about this sim in Strange Town, and the sim started digging a hole, and then at the end of the hole it was a human person, and I hope that they don't go down that route with it, because I think that would just be Barbie 2.0. I think there's a lot of lore to draw from.
I was going to ask you about that, obviously, because Margot Robbie's obviously involved. So do you think there is that danger of making it quite similar to Barbie, or is that actually a good thing? Because it did amazingly well.
I think it could go a bit Truman Show-esque and Barbie-esque with like the realization that a sim is just in a simulation and is being controlled. And I think if it is that, like that's the main base level of the film, I do think they need to include the lore and the drops to make it intriguing and interesting to simmers. I don't want it to be predictable. That's my only thing, because The Sims has spanned for 25 years now, and we kind of know the basis of The Sims. And I do think that there is a lot of ways that they could throw plot twists into it and give a lot of like stories of what simmers would recognize. And I think that base level of a sim realizing they're in a simulation potentially might not be the way to go.
What do you think, Amira? You were nodding to that.
I agree. No, I agree. That may be a bit too, like, I guess I would say maybe obvious that, that like it's like yeah, predictable, I would say. So I definitely hope that they do something different. I'm ready to be wild.
Yeah, same. I can't wait for it. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with it. I mean, we're talking about here, it has been 25 years of The Sims. What does it need to do to keep going for another 25 years or even longer? What would you like to see in the next few generation of games? Jesse?
Give us
Sims 4.
cars.
Oh, go on, Amira, go on.
No, I just want to say give us cars.
That's a good point. There hasn't really been, has there? Yeah, that's a good point.
Cars.
And Jesse?
I was just going to say The Sims 5.
Oh.
It got cancelled.
And what would you like to see? I guess as a more broader thing, what do these games need to do to compete with things like, for example, Roblox and other, Dress to Impress, things like that? I know it's obviously not exactly the same, but what does it need to do to compete with these new games that are coming out or new experiences, new titles?
I think that interestingly, The Sims has done so well for so long because nobody really took life simulation games seriously. So it's had a monopoly on it, where now we're seeing a lot more life simulation games come out because people are like, oh, hang on, people actually play these games, even though it was the best selling game of all time at one point. So I think that is going to have to really be dedicated to improving the core features of the game and also introducing new ways that we can interact with the base game. I know that Fortnite, for example, that done a complete graphics rehaul a couple of years ago, and that changed how the game looks. And I think if it's sticking with The Sims 4, then something like that to be introduced would need to happen.
Molly, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they have stated that The Sims 4 is going to last for numerous more years. And I think if that's going to be kind of their mainline game, they do need to go and look at how they can refresh things and make things feel newer for those people who have been, I mean, it's 11 years this year since the base game came out. And I think restructuring that, if they can strengthen the code and add more systems in that kind of make Sims more reactive, and there's a lot of feedback from Simmers around the globe of what they can do to kind of keep that longevity and what's actually needed to make The Sims 4 feel fresh at this point, other than the paid DLC that we get every year. And I think there's some really interesting ideas out there. Obviously, not a game designer, so I don't know how achievable a lot of these hopes and dreams that the community have are, but I think to keep that core player base and then to keep it going as a game and keep people invested in it. Although I am also really loving the idea of more spin-offs, and they recently just released My Sims, re-released it on the Switch, and I was a huge fan of My Sims when I was younger. I think they could bring back Herbs on PlayStation and Xbox. They could get into different franchises within The Sims, and it does seem to be going that way. I think with the return of My Sims, they've kind of spoken about if it could be a possibility to bring back other kind of touch points that people have got into The Sims with. And I think that would be a great thing to kind of get a new generation also into not the mainline life simulation, but like, hey, we have all of these other great products that we've kind of forgotten about for the last 20 years, but we want people to rediscover them.
But no, I joked and I said give us cars, but seriously, there's quite a bit of different things that they could add to keep the longevity, keep things going. And yeah, we definitely need herbs. We need busting out. I'm trying to get, you know what I really, really want? I want them to go back and make Sims 3 64-bit. That's what I want. That's what I need for Christmas. Make Sims 3 64-bit. So I can play it. But also, yeah, they can go back to Sims 3, Sims 2, add a couple of like maybe some modern code, not to break the mods or anything, but just to expand it, make it 64-bit, like make it so that it's compatible on newer hardware, um, things like that. But it's definitely a lot they could do. It's definitely a lot they will do, and I'm excited for all of it. Even just seeing the things that they've come out with in like the past, I want to say like the past 2, 3 years has been really dope. I've been going back and looking at it because I play very heavily modded. So I've been going back and like looking at like base game and EA created and curated content. And I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Wait, what is this? And I'm finding new stuff every day. They told me about a lunchbox yesterday. So I'm just finding things and it's been pretty awesome. So they're doing great with that.
And what's your favorite moment of playing The Sims? Either, creating content from it or just being in The Sims. Tell us a favorite moment of it.
Somewhere between when I'm just locked in by myself, quietly playing with some music or like a background show. But then I also enjoy playing it and like, entertaining the community, talking to them and just watching, putting a bunch of mods in my game and then watching the chaos ensue, reacting and providing commentary. I think that's one of my favorite things to do. Just watching the chaos in the game with some good mods and just a good time.
And how about you, Molly?
I think one of my favorites was probably when they dropped toddlers in The Sims 4. I feel like that was such a moment in like my time capsule of Sims moments where no one really knew that it was coming and it just kind of got dropped out of nowhere and we were just like, oh, we have this thing. People used to joke like, don't say the T word because they weren't included at the beginning of the game. However, they had been in The Sims 2 and Sims 3 and they got removed and all of a sudden we had these toddlers back in our game and that was so much fun. It kind of brought back the like childlike joy that I used to feel like opening a Sims pack and then seeing what the next expansion was in the little leaflet in the box. And it was just so joyful to see everyone kind of celebrate this thing that so many people had wanted for so long. I love surprise drops. I think they are so much fun when they can keep it under wraps and then it's just like, okay, go on. Go and explore this in your life simulation. Go get up to your wild stories that you create. Go run free with this thing that we've been working on in secret for like the last few years.
And Jessie?
I play very differently to how I post. So I like to post quite chaotic content, like 3 to 4 hour long videos talking. But in my actual gameplay, I think my favorite moment is when my sim has a baby and it comes up with, it's twins. And I always, oh, wow. And sometimes it's triplets. But also for my content, I would say I like to read object descriptions and book descriptions and all the really boring stuff that people don't usually pay attention to. Because it's a big, massive block of text, and then noticing, I just found out yesterday that the Tragic Clown has an urn dedicated to him in the Tragic Clown colours in The Sims 1, and I never knew that. So finding out bits of information like that, I'm like, oh.
There's a lot of lore, isn't there? I think people don't realise that, but there is.
Yeah, and loads of it's just complete random, made up with no consequence, and then it becomes a big thing in the next game, and... Like, even talking about plot twists earlier, we had a plot twist in the Horse Ranch expansion pack that solved a mystery from The Sims 1. So there's lots of routes to go down.
There's many, and there's going to be more to come. I'm sure of it. There's going to be many, many more things. I'm sure people will be discussing for years on end because it just keeps going, doesn't it? Look, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you having a chat with us. And yeah, looking forward to all the announcements on the actual day. And yeah, whatever comes next. It sounds like they've still got plenty more updates and things planned.